how would you define them? What are the pains, needs, challenges, buying triggers, or other attributes that you would use? Firmographic, technographic, how big is the company? What industry is it in? What geography is it in? That combination of characteristics is what makes for a good ICP. The key challenge or the key gap is most companies define their ICP purely on firmographic or sometimes technographic characteristics. They'll say, you know, as opposed to saying B2B SaaS, we know that's not a good idea. They'll say B2B SaaS between 200 and 500 employees in North America that use Salesforce. Okay, good,
Okay.
good, right? But not great, because great would be that are following the account-based motion, that are trying to hire sellers, that are struggling to integrate, and I'm making this up, right? Depending on your company, anything that adds on the use case, challenges, or buying triggers bit on top of firmographics and technographics makes the ICP more specific and helps you zoom in on companies, people that care. Let's go back to relevance. You said it beautifully. Relevance is table stakes. Relevance is what you should shoot for. Relevance is the intersection of a problem I'm trying to solve or a pain I'm dealing with and where you can help. And ICP is really that, is the mental model for that you can use. And the crisper you can get on that, the better the hit rate, the better the response rate that you can get from your prospects, because you're talking to people that care. You don't have to get them to care. They already care.
Yeah. Yeah, understood. And so let's take that example, right? It's a B2B company, 200 to 500 employees using Salesforce, and with, let's say, growth that is higher than 10%. They have a marketing function with more than 5 people. Like you add a bunch of layers. And then how do I think about changing this ICP in 6 months? What am I looking for to make this change?
Great question. Great question. So let's say we started with a baseline. We started with a definition. And there's a set of signals that I'm using to define my ICP. What you really want to look at is when you reached out to prospects, let's say you reached out to 1,000 companies in that quarter, where did you book meetings? Where did you get opportunities? Where did you close deals? And then you want to look at the correlation of each of those things that we just talked about and those outcomes that we're looking at. And typically what you'll find is there are 1 or 2 or 3 conditions that rise to the top, things that have really high correlation with success. That's good. That's your lookalike model that you can use. There are other things that are either not correlated or negatively correlated, right? Some combination of those 2 things, which means then you have to go back and ask yourself, do those things matter? I'll give you an example. We had a customer, they thought mergers and acquisitions would be a really good signal, meaning any company that has had a recent M&A activity of some sort would be a good prospect. Well, there was a negative correlation between that and meetings booked. We were like, what happened here? So we went back and looked at it. Turns out, if you separate mergers and acquisition, they had a positive correlation for mergers, meaning when you bought a company, you acquired a company, the deal velocity sped up, the deal size was bigger, and the conversion rates were higher. But if you got acquired, the deal just died. And it's not a surprise, right? Somebody came in and bought you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So those are the kinds of tweaks you want to, so a lot of it's qualitative and quantitative, meaning the data will give you a starting point, but then you have to ask yourself, what's really going on here? And use that to make these small tweaks over a period of time.
Understood. That makes sense. There's an interesting thing that when I was at ZoomInfo and we 35,000 customers and all these companies are trying to use ZoomInfo to find their ICPs and engage with them. One thing that I observed was ZoomInfo has more than 100 filters that you can put to get to the people and companies you're looking for. There were 4 filters that people were using. 77% of the sessions, meaning one session is like when somebody's putting some filters, right? 77% of the sessions have 4 filters: United States, then employee range, job title, and one more. I cannot remember. It's industry or something like that, something very simple. So these are the 4 that everybody will put. And what happens is that will get them, and with ZoomInfo's database, they are going to get, 50,000, 70,000 companies and like 10 million people. And they're like, okay, now I got my ICP. I'm going to email these 10 million people randomly, right? It's insane. But I like what you said, the finding that proxy that adds the relevance is the most important thing. And the way you are articulating it is to find the proxy is the key. And as you look into the data, you have to find what is that proxy that is either accelerating or decelerating your meeting booking and engagement. Based on that, you make changes and ICP. Perfect. Okay. Now, if I switch back and ask, like, what are the common symptoms or what are the KPIs that a company can look at to know whether they have or when they don't have an ideal ICP?
Yeah.
What are the KPIs to look for?
This question.